Thanks everybody for joining us for this answer hour. This will be for the insurer community and TPAs. As Angie said, just be aware this call is going to be recorded, and we'll go through this this answer hour in a similar format to what we have done beforehand. So with that, we'll get started. Angie, let's go to the next slide. The agenda is going to be, what release did we have in the past couple of weeks? What are some known issues? What's we'll have a question and answer session, and then the upcoming answer hour schedule after that. As we've done before, please feel free to at any time put your questions in the chat. When we get a few questions in there, we will just stop and start answering those questions. I believe we do have members from our compliance department on the phone as well. So with that, we should be able to answer most questions out there. Some of the things that have been fixed in the past few weeks, intermittent document generation issues. So this was where we got some reports that the documents we were sending back were not generating all the time, depending on what data elements were there. So we have fixed those documents. Missing claims when you're filtering, making sure that everybody has the correct claims, that's been corrected. The unauthorized message when attempting to view assessment reports, that was a big one where people were just not getting able to get that. So if you do have the authority to do that, you should be able to see that. Penalty update emails not always going to the designated recipient. We've worked with our compliance team on that, and a little note out there is for those, we would like everybody to make sure you do have somebody designated if you want penalties to go to a person, because if there's not one, we will have to go to a general user on the entity. The designee is not being able to view the page, so that's been corrected. And then the claims access changes require login, logout. And that was where when you were assigning somebody as a group administrator to claims, people would have to log in and log out to reset those permissions so they get access. That's no longer the case. That's been working. And then the DSR error with weak input must be a whole number. So that one, Angie, do you know a little more about that?
Yes. So I believe that what was happening with that is that when people were attempting to submit a DSR or enter a DSR, it asks for the number of weeks that the employee's been off, and the system is set up that it should be a whole number. When users were putting in a decimal, it was causing an error. So essentially, just with that, make sure that it shouldn't cause an error if you put a decimal in just by mistake, but just make sure that you're using a whole number when you're indicating those weeks.
Perfect. And so that's what we've been working on, and that's all corrected now. So if anybody's experiencing any of this now, please let us know. I want to go to some things that we know are kind of out there, Angie. We still have some issues with TPAs linking to claims in limited instances. If you're experiencing this, please reach out to the EDI folks in the department, and they will assist you. We may have to do some data cleanup efforts, so we will get those corrected. The company name rather than adjuster name has been listed on some documents, and we're cleaning that up. The inactive claim showing is open. Inability to upload other filings on closed files. This is coming up not just with you all, it's coming up with other folks that once that file status gets closed on our side, it's not allowing other documents to get filed. It's something we're looking into it of how we can fix it. We have some EDI sequencing issues that will be corrected in our EDI release that we have coming up on the 28th, and then some dispute linking issues going to claims. That's what we know is out there that we're working on. A lot of the EDI stuff will be fixed with the release that we have on the 28th coming out. I know Angie did a large or a more in-depth answer hour on that last week. And for any of that information, you can find it on this campus page here. We also sent out communications on it. But this has been updated. This has been a focus of the department to make sure that we have it updated with our current communications, what's FAQs, any videos and things we post on there. So we just we have that out there for everybody, so that way everybody can see the see all the information you see on there. That we have the corrected, we have a message about the EDI release on there. We have when we had to turn our processing off, we had that up there, and when it came back on. So this is the page you would go to find that information. If if you're not able to get through to somebody, or you just want to check here first, we do post a lot of stuff on there so people can see it. Now with that, Angie, do we have any questions coming through?
Yeah, it looks like we have a number of questions. So I'll just start from the top. So the first one, this person just filed a discontinuance and forgot to add the return to work dates. So the NOID did not generate, and also didn't generate when they submitted an O2 to update the return to work information. So I did go ahead and put a response in the chat for that one because I think that came in before we started. So unfortunately with O2s, there's no way for us to know which maintenance type code it is attempting to update. At that point, it's just kind of updating the entire claim, and that's an IIBC thing, so it's not something that we could make changes to. In that instance, the NOID form wouldn't generate because our system thinks that it would require a discontinuance web form if we don't have return to work information. Rather than doing that discontinuance web form, which you should really only be doing if it's a situation where the employee did not actually return to work, you can use the NOID form that was previously available prior to campus rollout. That's still on our DLI website. So it should be few and far between that you have those situations, but that is available if you're able to use it. All right, next. Becky, I saw that you were having some issues with your UR, so I will take a look. I know you've sent me an email, so I can take a look at that and see what's going on with those. Do you have a listing of the DN error code that we can access so we know which field is missing / in error? So what I would recommend from that standpoint is actually our EDI guide, the implementation guide for Minnesota. So what that's going to have in it is every data element. It's going to tell you what maintenance type codes would accept that data element, and then it's also going to give you the edits that are applicable. So that would be my recommendation. If it's a situation where it's one that you just don't understand, like it's that transaction error one or transaction row error or something like that, you can always reach out to us. But that's the document that I would recommend referencing. I'll go ahead and put a link to it in our chat as well, just so you all can use that document if you need to validate those transactions or those DN numbers. All right. And Kristen, you mentioned that you filed that suspension and you're not seeing it in campus. So if you could just send me, I think I sent you a private message just to send that jurisdiction cleanup where I can take a look. In that instance, it might be that you want to look at your, I'm trying to think of that transaction history tab. Let me see if I can get an example of that up just to show you all what that would look like. That's where you would be able to see the filings that have been accepted on a transaction. So I'll go ahead and I'll pull up a claim here in my test system and show you all exactly where that would be. You scroll down to the bottom, the reporting history. that tells me the EDI transactions that have been accepted in this case. All right. Could we have a tab in the My Queue for my EDI filings? It would be great to not have to search for a claim that I recently filed a transaction to get the form. So Kristen, I believe that is available to our trading partner users if you're in a trading partner group, but we can definitely add that as a feedback item for something to consider for our non-trading partner users. Newer files entered into Campus with a FOI are showing up twice, one as the insurer and one as the claim administrator. So that would make sense. If you are the claim administrator and the insurer on the file, you would see it twice, just because you are representing both parties. Now, it shouldn't show up in your, I don't believe it'll show up in your My Claims queue twice. Once we push that EDI enhancement through, I believe it would just be the claim administrator where it would show up. But what I would recommend doing in that instance is just going ahead and filtering by the role. So hang on just a second. I can show you all how that works too. All right, I'm just going to get back into my test system. And you should be able to filter by the role, I believe. And I apologize, mine is not populating correctly right now, so I can't show an example of that. But I will see if we can provide some additional information in our newsletter this week. But that would be an expected behavior. You would be seeing it potentially twice if you are the insurer and the claim administrator. We have only been filing interim reports annually. Now with Campus, they will be required to file semi-annually. Is that driven by the date of injury and 6 months later? Let me see if I have anybody from compliance who could possibly jump in on that one. Do I have John or Melissa on today?
I'm here, Angie. That's correct. Every 6 months from DOI, give or take 30 days.
Perfect. Thank you, John. All right. Next question. We have several emails from Campus that a new document is available that is addressed to another, either an employee or attorney. I did report this issue to the email, but have not gotten a response. I'm concerned that the other parties involved are not getting this information. So, Bridget, if you could send over just a few examples of that to myself, that would be great. In some instances, it may look like it's referencing the employee just because it's a claim for the employee, but we can verify that if emails were sent to all the correct parties. We were able to upload MMI documents using other filings before the NOID 3 discontinuance form was fixed. Now when we go to upload the document through the discontinuance form, we get an error of no access. So Teresa, in that instance, it's usually the PDF document itself that could be causing that issue. So in those instances, I would recommend letting us know the approximate time, the user, and then also, Brad, I think I'm forgetting something. Was it the form that they're completing?
Yeah, the form they're on or the transaction they're on, the page they're on, basically. We want to see what's happening just so we can chase it down on our end.
All right. I'd like to confirm that the only documents accepted are PDFs. I don't believe that that is true. I believe you could upload Word documents as well. PDF is usually the easiest, and I believe PDFs are what has to be uploaded if it is a service issue. So like if you are serving something through Campus, it would need to be a PDF just so it couldn't potentially be doctored somehow. I would recommend PDFs, but I do not believe that our system discriminates to just PDFs. We have documents that are coming in requesting information, but once we pull it up, the download disappears. Is there any way to get a copy of the history of the notification we received for this year? So Adrienne, I'm having a little trouble understanding that question. It sounds like maybe you're having trouble with the request for information. If you could possibly send an email just with more information and some examples, I might be able to help out outside of this call. And it looks like right now I'm at the end of the questions, but we will keep an eye on the chat. So as far as our schedule for answer hours, as Brad mentioned, we do have our EDI release on the 28th. My plan is to go ahead and schedule additional answer hours for this group in 2 weeks. So it would be the first week of February. We'll get those on the calendar and sent out to you all. We are going to slow down the cadence of the group administrator answer hours for any of you who have been on those calls. Those are going to go down to once a month just based on feedback from that group. And then the EDI and E-form answer hours would typically be on the opposite week of this answer hour. However, we will push those to the week following the release, just so it makes a little bit more sense for you all. You may have time to process the EDI filings and things like that, and may have some questions by that point. So that is how the scheduling will work this time. It's just going to be a little bit different. Brad, do you have anything else to add?
No, that's it. You covered it. You know, obviously we like these answer hours. We're getting a lot out of them, and hopefully you're getting a lot out of them. But, you know, we're starting to turn and our focus onto now that things are stabilizing on the upcoming stuff and future releases and getting you know, the requirements and everything done for those. And as you've seen with the EDI release, that's taken us took us a number of weeks to do it, but, you know, we will get it out by the 28th, like we said. So we want to keep that focus on getting that future stuff out just so that we can, you know, start to improve things. Of course, we definitely like these feedback sessions.
Great, thanks, Brad. And Anne, I just saw your question about when is the next EDI trading partner session date. So we will not have one of those next week just because we're doing that release. And I figured that it would make the most sense for everybody if we just waited until after the release has gone out so you all can ask any questions. So that will be scheduled that first week in February along with this answer hour. They will be scheduled separately, but they'll both be that week. Let's see here. There's a question. Some of our claims are not showing in the system, and it was found out that some of our claims are under a different RI number. How do we get that fixed if it was found out but no one has resolved it yet? And I apologize, I am not sure what an RI number is. Carolyn, if you could just add some context to that in the chat. It's possible you're saying an IR number, an insurer number, but I just want to confirm. And right now I don't see anything else in the chat. So Carolyn, I will reach out to you with that one since you said it was the insurer, just to get some examples of that so we can start working on it. The next question, if we've reported a claim in error, is there a way to retract the claim if it was reported accidentally or is a duplicate? In that instance, what I would recommend is submitting the 04, just indicating that it's a duplicate, or the PD, or I think probably even a narrative. John, do you have any thoughts on that? I know we don't take the cancel, but is there a preference for compliance on how an erroneous claim would be resolved?
Yeah, thanks, Angie. So compliance really prefers to have denials that explain through the narrative of the denial what the situation is, because you can get more text, and it kind of helps the processing on the inside, or the workflow on the inside, to basically close down that claim.
Great, thanks, John. And then just to confirm, that would be the 04 denial rather than the PD, correct?
Yep, most likely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. I don't see any other questions. Lots of good questions here, lots of good feedback as well. I will go ahead, if nobody else has anything, I will go ahead and call us early today. As far as the frequency and duration of these answer hours, I can possibly just get a little bit of feedback from this group. Do you all think that it would be, is it appropriate for us to shorten these to 30 minutes or space them out a little bit more? If you all could just kind of give some feedback in the chat, that would be wonderful. So we can have an idea for scheduling what works best for you all. At this point, I do plan to just continue them bi-weekly for 60 minutes, but if we think that people are 30 minutes, okay, so I'm seeing 30 minutes bi-weekly would be great. Okay, perfect. So I will shorten these to 30 minutes, and if we need to start making them longer if needed, we can. Becky, I just saw your question. If we have claims with duplicate entries with insurer and claim adjuster, which one would the adjuster's name be on? I would recommend adding the adjuster under the claim administrator. I don't think it would matter which one they're on, but it will give them the same access, but I would likely recommend just the claim administrator. And yeah, I see 30 minutes every 2 weeks. So we will plan on shortening this to 30 minutes. We'll keep the biweekly schedule, and we will plan to touch base with you all in a couple of weeks, and also schedule that EDI answer hour in a couple of weeks. Thank you all so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.